Welcome back to the We Valiant Few Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Slapshot.
Crossfire's here.
Raptor.
Hi, I'm Blackbeard.
I'm sorry if I blew out your speakers. Oops.
We'll fix that in post.
Never say you're sorry.
Hey, we got a great, fun-filled episode today. And, of course, we will kick it off with our shameless plug-in for our socials.
This isn't even shameless. This is just where it belongs.
Every single time.
We have a Discord. It exists. You can go to it.
Discord.wevaliantfew.com. Easy to remember.
We also have a YouTube.
Posting more content on that, including a new video supplement to this podcast. Topic we're going to be talking about today is like basics of gear, weapons safety, etc. Some of that is really hard to explain over just audio.
Talking, yeah.
So that's a great video supplement to that. That'll be going live at the same time this podcast is. So check that out on our YouTube. We have a website where you can find all the addresses and links to, our YouTube, our Discord, our Instagram, etc. WeValiantFew.com. I think that's about it for that. Everything's on there.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a very busy business person, you probably listen to this going into your drive to work or home from work, and, you could probably watch the YouTube video on your lunch break. So there you go. That's a good idea, right?
Yeah, I mean, something to do.
Tell me how to live my life.
If you like what we're doing, please share this to your friends, your family, to your family's friends.
Your dogs.
Your dogs, yeah.
Your dogs would like it.
Yeah.
Do it because Blackbeard said so.
Tell the lady at the cashier or the checkout at the thing. Check out this podcast.
Tell someone you don't know.
Tell someone you don't know. Just walk up to the street and be like, "Hey, check out this podcast."
But seriously, we're trying to get this as a grassroots, or we're trying to grow this through a grassroots method. Please share this if you like what we're doing. If you want to help us out,
Give us feedback.
Yeah, give us feedback on our Discord, and I think that's pretty much all we gotta say about that. Yeah.
I don't think I say it enough, but please join our Discord just to rip on us. Any kind of feedback's helpful.
Certainly.
All right.
Yeah, so again, as per the usual for Season 2, let's talk about some current events before we get into the nitty-gritty. The first thing that happened this week that I saw and was kind of shocked, Myanmar. Military coup. Actual military coup. Not even hiding it.
I didn't even know this happened.
Oh, yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, they detained the president, and the military came out and said that they are going to be taking over the country for a year.
Did they state a reason as to why they're doing this?
I was just going to ask.
It says that there was allegations of the leader.
Against the leader.
Yeah, it says accused of illegally importing at least 10 walkie-talkies.
What?
What?
Are you serious? Is this real?
This is on New York Times, so I would imagine that this is pretty legit.
So,
Is accused of illegally importing at least 10 walkie-talkies. What a thing.
it was a bizarre postscript to 40 which the army placed the country's most popular leader back under house arrest and extinguished hopes that the Southeast Asian country would come beacon of democracy.
The surprise use of walkie-talkies to justify locking up a Nobel Peace Prize.
That lower crowd means somebody who has achieved a Nobel Peace Prize.
Okay. Reinforced the military's penchant for using fine-grained strategy to neutralize its greatest political rival. The accusations, which surfaced in a court order on Wednesday, may seem obscure and underwhelming, but they could put her in prison for up to 3 years.
So basically, this sounds like there is some back and forth, some tension between the actual leader of Myanmar and then the military, and the military just threw out some dumb reason for them to have a coup in the first place. But it also talks about how the leader is popular, which means the people like them, which that's
Parallels.
it's probably not a very good thing that the military decided to.
Well, this is why I wanted to bring this up, because for two reasons. The one is this is similar. Well, this is an extreme case of censorship, because if they're locking somebody up, say it's on the surface without going deeper in it, say oh yeah, it's walkie-talkies. It's China, for instance, you're not allowed to do this type of stuff because there's any outside communications is a big no. Yeah. So this is an extreme form of censorship. So when we say, hey, censorship's a bad thing, this is the extreme end of it. On the other end of it, like you said, a popular leader that the military comes in and
restraints, I mean, that's not too
It's not
unlikely.
very good for
Well,
democracy.
No.
well, I think you can draw some parallels between that and like what's going on in our country now.
Yeah.
Like of course these are extremes, but like there's a start to all this. It doesn't just happen instantly. No, we're talking like there's still massive military force in DC. They're putting up big fences and stuff like that.
Permanent fences.
Permanent fences. So you have to be careful not to replicate this situation here, and I think it's something to keep an eye on. That's why I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, I mean, if we're equating it to what's going on in DC, that's a huge issue.
Now, what kind of government does Myanmar have?
I'm not 100% sure. I can't speak to that. I don't want to say something wrong. But they were saying about like they're trying to do democracy in this article. So I imagine they have some type of autocratic type or like. No, it couldn't be autocratic because the president was detained. I'm not, like I said, I'm not 100% sure on that. But I think it's just something that's dangerous.
Some more information to look into.
Yeah. Another topic I wanted to talk about was...
Pause. It's technically an independent republic.
So basically what we have then.
Essentially, yeah.
So then, again, even
And
more...
the military just decided, hey,
this is our country. But seriously, that's something to pay attention to. The next thing I want to talk about was earlier this week, I think it was just yesterday, that the Proud Boys were going to be labeled as a terrorist group in Canada.
which is completely stupid. And I mean, it just goes to show what kind of leadership Canada currently has. And we've known this for a while, but Canada is basically at this point like a socialist haven at this point. I mean, they took away guns, along with other stuff.
I don't think they took away guns.
They did.
They did?
Yes.
I thought they just had some very strict,
they increased
protocols to
the point where it's
obtain
impossible.
a firearm.
I mean, like saying it's next to impossible to get a firearm while still technically being able to get the firearm is to me equivalent as to having your firearms completely taken away. Because like if you make somebody go through an impossible task to be able to get them, or like next to impossible, it doesn't matter.
Like you can get them in theory, sure, but it doesn't matter, because you could say, like with the new HR 127 that was brought up on the House, it is basically they throw up registries, anything that has like more than 2 features of what they consider an assault weapon is completely not allowed, and they list specific weapons and specific manufacturers and all that. And like, sure, in theory you can buy a gun, you can't buy the gun that you want. You also have to abide by super strict and like insane rules.
You have to have $800 a year insurance. You have to have licenses. You have to have AMA registry things. You have to be in this huge giant database. I mean, we're basically they're suggesting to replicate that because they're like, it's about your safety. I mean, and anybody who has any slight bit of a working brain can tell that that's not the case at all, because that's always the first thing to do to pull the wig over everybody's eyes. And for the government to take over is to disarm the people.
Hitler did it. Stalin did it.
Yeah, I mean,
It's for your safety.
You look at, I mean, Mao. The country never had guns to begin with. You know, it's all the thing. They disguise it as, you know, protecting
For
you.
your safety.
Because they want it to do that split class system like China has, where like most of the country is miserably poor and the upper leadership just sucks all the money out of it because there's no way to defend themselves.
And because that side has such a powerful pull in the culture war, that they make it easy, because everyone, like today I listened recently, because I've been driving a vehicle that doesn't have Bluetooth. I listened to the like morning show of whatever the main podcast is in the city or whatever, and these guys are like super, like they don't even question it. They're just like, oh yeah, wear your mask, and like you should know how to act in a pandemic. And
you're actually like listening to this stuff?
I don't like listening to it, but I have no other option, and that's where the good music is. So
I'll have you. This is on the same subject as that. I was at you guys know I was at my meeting last night. I kid you not. There's one guy there who's real picky about masks. Like everybody there will just was all right with it. This guy comes in. Swear to God, 2 of them on. One over top of the other.
oh my god.
I'm thinking like, dude, you're going to suffocate yourself. You're going to literally like choke yourself because you can't get enough air through those.
It's at that point.
And they had just talked about that earlier this week on CNN. Like, you should wear 2 masks. Dr. Fauci came out and said, yeah, you should do 2. I'm like, dude, you just sit there and not think on your own at all.
It's absolutely
It's
insane.
it's a
just
shame.
how dumb I'm sorry, but just how dumb are you? Like, if someone, I don't know, Why not wear 2 hats? Let's wear 2 hats to protect you from the sun.
Yeah.
Like,
You have to wear
Henry,
one.
your hands
one
are
wear-
freezing. You mean you had 2 pairs of gloves this whole time?
I mean, there's
yeah,
feel
we're
like
in
that's
the
a
Rockies.
I feel like that might be a little bit different. I mean, that might keep your hands
that's
warm.
different, but this
No,
whole-
but
the whole
I'm just
But I
premise-
mean,
saying
wearing
the
2 hats, though, you wear
common
one hat forward, one hat backwards, so you don't get a redneck and you don't get sunburned in the face. That makes sense.
Why don't you just wear the hat that makes it work? Like, for
The
instance,
farmer's big
Like
brim
a
hat.
cowboy hat.
like a cowboy
A
hat.
boonie.
You
That's- yeah.
boonie hat, whatever. Like, if you're so scared of getting this virus, just buy a gas mask that is P3 rated. That'll protect against biological
Walk around with an
contaminants.
SCBA.
Yeah, I mean, if you're really that scared, and the masks are completely, I mean, they're up in the air. Some people say they work, some people say they don't. Like, the whole mass media is pushing that they work, but do you honestly trust a piece of cloth with no filter, no nothing in front of your face is going to protect you from
And
whatever?
no seal. And there's no
Yeah, there's
facial
nothing.
seal.
Yeah.
Like, there's no seal. You touch your face. I mean, I literally watched a senator
Pull
pull
down.
his mask down, sneeze into his hand, and then put his mask back on. Like,
You cannot make that shit up.
Where'd that
literally
happen?
can't-
Yeah, let
it
me
was
wipe.
on the Senate floor.
Like,
No,
let me
that was
wipe
the
this
house.
on
Where's the
you.
house?
Yeah, when they were debating the no, I guess it was the Senate when they were debating the objection to the electoral vote. That's when it was.
And
That's
it's just
hilarious.
completely
It's so
insane.
big.
If you're that scared, don't leave your house or buy the proper equipment that will actually protect you. Don't just go along with this narrative of, oh, next week it'll be 5 masks. We need 5 masks layered on your face.
If he walked in with a gas mask, I'm pretty sure everybody there would just beat him up. I mean, I'm not gonna lie.
I'll have you know 2 things to add. I actually have a relative that has not left her house since March of 2020.
What a-
How
Literally
could you
has her kids
possibly-
drop her off groceries and anything she needs to survive. It is actually insane.
You
You
know,
feel disappointed.
No, it's a blessing, honestly.
oh no.
Because I don't.
Ooh, this is getting dark.
See, I like I said, I don't look down upon people like that. I really feel bad that they truly think that's the way of living.
Yeah, no, I won't look down upon her for it. I mean, she's like super like terrified because like she's like been rather ill because of some recent surgery. So like, of course, like I get her mentality.
I mean,
behind
that's
it, but,
I mean
like,
that's better than a
Are you
lot.
catastrophizing, though? Are we not looking at this rationally rather than emotionally? We're scared, so we're utilizing our scared emotions to make decisions rather than looking at it rationally, looking for the facts, doing your own research type thing.
I'll use my friend for example. His daughter just was diagnosed with cancer and she's on chemo, so they're all kind of keeping away from everybody for a bit.
Yeah.
That's a lot more rational because I mean she's not doing too hot. The immune system's not reacting well to the chemo. So again, that's perfectly rational. I mean, someone's literally like
Pre-existing condition,
Like-
something that can cause. Okay, sure. Like you don't want them getting the flu. Like it's not
that's,
just COVID.
No,
right?
like
it's
if
the flu
yeah, like
or
if,
anything.
You could get a cold.
Yeah.
And, you know.
if you're in this situation like that, like
Yeah, that's what I
a
mean.
cold could kill you, and that's
Yeah.
why they're just being careful about it. Like that's a lot more reasonable. Staying
Oh,
inside
absolutely.
for a year, I don't know about that, man. I'd lose my mind.
I don't know how she hasn't, if I'm being honest.
Maybe she
but-
lost it already. But
I mean,
Moving on.
yeah, moving on.
Moving on. Besides
Yeah,
the
that
point.
was a tangent, but
Another thing to mention though, real quick, like there are like in my facility boxes of masks, and in there's small fine print under the opening of the box. It says not for medical use.
it's a coping mechanism. But
If it's not for medical use, like what's
what do you have to cope with anymore? We've been dealing with this for what, like almost a year now.
because it makes
Or a
somebody
year
feel
now?
happy.
I guess.
It's
Even like you said, like
ridiculous.
It's a
non-medical
false
rated,
sense of security.
non-medical
Essentially.
rated, which is literally like I'll just take this roll of paper towels and put one over my face, and it literally makes them feel better. That's why like you can walk into a store if they get all if you don't happen to have one on, then you can lift your shirt up and immediately it's better. That's
I know,
not
I've
that,
seen-
that
yeah, I've
there's
seen
no
that.
science there. It's coping. That's all it
Yeah,
is.
is.
But moving forward,
Yeah, I want to wrap that back with with where we went on the whole point of the Proud Boys thing is like that. It's if they're labeled a domestic terrorist in a foreign country, then the U.S. can observe them as a foreign terrorist, which opens the door of like, if any country decides to label whatever group they want, then the U.S. can just act on that, and you basically open up this huge can of worms with this, because like they're talking. Have you heard the phrase Patriot Act 3.0 coming out over this? Yeah, so that's what they're essentially
This
thinking.
is
Is that
Pandora's box that is going to be opened, and
I mean,
it's not going to be pretty.
In all honesty, how much have you heard even in mainstream media of them talking about like bad things that the Proud Boys specifically have done.
The Proud Boys, what they do is they show up with their their guns and their plate carriers and stuff. They get drunk and they get in fights.
Do they?
I don't know.
Most of them are like FUDs and like.
Yeah, well,
I'll be honest. I don't know a whole lot about the Proud Boys. Aren't they like more like?
Well, one of the Proud Boys leader at the time. I know he's in jail now or he was in jail. He was put in jail, but he was on like Tim Pool's podcast, and Tim Pool, who is a generally left-leaning guy,
center left, yeah.
And he said that he didn't see anything wrong with them.
Like I said, they show up at the rallies, or the Proud Boys rallies. They show up there, they get drunk, and they fight with Antifa. That's it. And like I said, now they're being labeled as a terrorist group. When on the other side of things, because this is the whole point I wanted to get, is just the horrendous double standard of this. On the other side of things, you have Black Lives Matter that literally burn buildings and cities down, and they're on the line. They were nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize.
Ridiculous.
That is completely ridiculous. There's not even a racism thing about this, because everybody's like, oh, the Proud Boys are a white supremacist group. Look at all the people that are mixed race and black and Cubans and stuff that are involved in it. There's no white supremacy at all. It's like, if your idea disagrees with mine, I can label you whatever I feel like.
White supremacy is few and far between. Actual white supremacists are few and far between.
Well, I think we did the research for this in one of our previous podcasts. I think we said under 0.5% total of people.
Yeah.
And like, if there was a real white supremacist that was talking to me, I mean, I would condone them openly, but like you're stupid.
Absolutely.
Why would you ever think that? For anybody that judges anybody based on how they look, I think is inferior mentally.
I would agree with that. Absolutely.
That's a serious subconscious disorder.
I don't think you're incapable of high level thinking.
No, I don't mean that way. I mean, I just think that if that's all you care about when you look at somebody or judge somebody, it's like, oh well, that person's skin's a different color than mine. I don't want to talk to them.
You're really self-conscious about your own well-being.
You're just an idiot.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be nice about this, because I think those people are terrible. Because for me, I care about how somebody acts. I care about the quality of someone's being, and that's what I judge them on. Because they come up to me. Cause I've had people come up to me that are literally hobos that are all ratted up, knees all ripped out, dirt all over them, and it turns out that they're multi-millionaires, and they dress like that on purpose so that people don't bug them.
I've actually
hiding in plain sight.
There's YouTube videos and stuff like that.
Yeah, and like I said, and you ask them, and it's like, oh well, however you get to the point of them explaining that, and they're like, and I'm like, you realize, you're all tattered up and stuff. They're like, oh yeah, this is on purpose. They're like, this is completely on purpose, just because it keeps everything so much lower key. But that gets to my point, is you never judge somebody by how they look.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, now that opens up the thing for this whole thing opens up the doors for the Patriot Act to be more expanded. Now, somebody thinks you were part of the Proud Boys,
or somebody even even talking like us, we could be targets. Just because we actually believe in real equality, not equity.
Yeah,
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And then on top of everything else, have you heard any of the info coming from DC where all of the bus stations and everything are plastered with pictures of people that were at the Capitol Hill thing?
Really?
Do you know these people?
Me. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Their First Amendment right, the right to protest. I mean, if there are people that actually were destroying stuff and breaking into stuff, if that was legitly if they legitly broke something,
that's one
or if they broke a law, then they should have to be responsible for that action. I 100% agree with that. But if they were just there, if they were just people that were standing out front, or standing on the lawn or something like that, on public space. Now there's people that were just involved in the group, and now they're getting rad. I mean, they're oh, turn these people in. It's that's your First Amendment right to peacefully assemble. I mean, that moment you cross it, no.
What we talked about last week with kids turning their parent that went to the Capitol. Yeah. So that's Patriot Act 3.0 type stuff.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah, and it's happening more and more.
I mean, if you read the book 1984, they talk about how people will report other people to Big Brother and stuff like that. That's exactly what it is. You are now, instead of having to use law enforcement for it, now you're getting your brainwashed people to do it for you.
That's scary.
You are you are deputizing the people.
You're not even deputizing.
No, but virtually that's what you're doing. you're deputizing,
you're
by social standard, you're giving these people the ability to oh, this person said this, so I'm gonna report them to the authorities, and now they're on this list, and here we go.
Gestapo.
And I was just gonna say, and for reporting them, you get a star, and now you're part of the secret police. Congratulations.
Yeah, you're part of the Stasi now.
There was I was in the local town here, they actually had people looking at these people's backgrounds to see that, because they were there and they had posted a video, and then they had to go through, the FBI were questioning these people while they were there.
Why'd you go?
Yeah, why they were there, where they went, whatever. Who does that?
And going back to it all, I think, was it Trump that organized the
January 6th thing? That was his rally, yes.
Right, okay, so he organized it, but he didn't intend for this to happen at all.
Absolutely not.
No way.
Actually, they looked at the timeline. His speech ended, and a minute later is when stuff started happening at the Capitol. It was a minute after his speech ended, if you look at the official timeline. So, and that's 1.8 miles. So the people at where he was talking at literally would have had to have run 1.8 miles in a minute, which is impossible.
Yeah, that's impossible.
To get there to start causing problems.
Unless you own the new Tesla, you can get there.
Well, you can't drive in DC. It's
Glad.
But on my magic carpet.
Yeah, seriously. But that's just all backing into it.
Yeah, what's next?
AOC rants, they've been going on, and there's lots of people calling these out. She is just spewing verifiably false information, the whole where is she? Seriously, that's her, according to her account, and she's saying about people breaking in, which it turns out it's Capitol Police, etc. The timeline's way wrong. She was in her office at 1 o'clock or so, and the problem started around 4. This is what I saw. So there's a 3-hour difference. They showed videos from inside where the representatives were, time stamped right around the same time she was there, and it looked like just a regular airport. People walking around, nobody running, people just carrying their stuff and leisurely leaving. As
regular people things.
Yeah, as a security thing. But not only is that, she keeps doubling down on information when people call out about it, and not only that, she's asking her followers on social media to report anything that goes against her verifiably false narrative. That's insane.
Yeah, more Gestapo stuff, more just complete lies. The truth is what I tell you, not what it is. It's completely my biggest thing with all of this that we've been talking about is do your own research, please. Stop listening to media. Stop listening to influencers, or not even influencers, but just people like that.
Expanding on it, you can listen to media, but you should not only
apply a filter.
Yeah, not only apply a filter, which is the first step. You should always consider their biases. You should observe multiple different media sources, and then on top of that, you should verify that information that you've collected from all of them. Me personally, I like to get my information from 3 to 5 sources.
Yeah.
I like to try to get one from the center, I like to try to get one from the right, I like to try to get one from the left, and I like to try to get 2 independent sources if I can on it. That's usually what I do. Yeah. And that way I can get it, because I use CNN, that's the easiest one. You can see even the wording, how their biases. And Fox is the same way. You can see how biased their wording is. And it's a real extreme, especially once you start really looking into the stuff and getting into it, doing your own research. You can see those biases, so you got to keep that in mind. I think that's the biggest takeaway from all this. You got to use your own. You got to do your own research. Just open your eyes to stuff. It's not that hard. And one last thing I want to talk about that happened earlier today, that I just cannot get over the irony of this, is Biden is opening his detention center, or opening the detention centers on the border again.
Who built the cages, Joe?
Who built the cages, Joe?
What?
He built them, and they're new and refurbished now for your caging pleasure.
What?
The cages at the border.
Show me this.
For whenever we had
remember the
debates?
caravans. the presidential debates, and
Who
they were
built
talking
the cages,
about
Joe?
who built the cages, Joe.
Yeah, so this one here is on the Federalist. I have another article from CNN, just to prove that this actually is true. So that there's
Like political bias.
I mean,
Or just multiple articles. talking about the
multiple
same thing.
articles, and then that's proving like
Okay.
again that CNN has reported on this, that it's not just some random thing. So that we can know going off this independent here that it's actually this is actually
gotcha.
happening.
Okay.
Biden administration opens detention centers for wave of abandoned children amassing at border. Oh, children in cages. Oh, look right here.
The thing that he said that we're gonna go away and the wall's coming down and all that. Well, guess what? He's throwing people in cages, and there's probably very little media coverage of this.
It says, hardly. I haven't seen it anywhere except against some independent things. It says Biden administration signaled its intent to reopen a Texas detention center to accommodate a recent increase in unoccupied minors at the southern U.S. border, anticipating Democrats will disregard laws for them. Oh, so they're just going to be let off into the country, no problem, right?
No.
It says Office of Refugee Resettlement expects to begin placing up to 700 of the nearly 5,000 migrant children in the Department of Homeland Security custody. At Carrizo Springs, whatever, Texas facility in just 2 weeks. Teens over the age of 13 who are cleared of COVID quarantine protocols are eligible to be transferred to the center by the Homeland Security.
Just something to point out, just drawing a bit of a line here. So, you expect people, or we are allowing people to not come into our country the correct way and giving them, like, whatever they need to live in the country. We're allowing, they are going around the process, because there is a process to do so, to get into the country. We're allowing them to go around that. But, whenever we talk about firearms, and they want us to follow the process that they're now talking about implementing with like HR 127 and other things, but they expect us to follow the process.
I saw something that's a great like mind destroying thing. It's like, well, if you want healthcare to be paid for because it's a right, what about firearms where it's literally a right?
Yeah.
Are you going to pay for our firearms?
Everyone should have firearms.
Nope, you turned 16. Here's your hunting rifle, or here's your shotgun.
I kind of just want to touch on that whole thing with the children, like, because I feel like this is really crucial, and like it's just an important piece. Like, these children are going to be put into a system to where it's already filled with children that don't have parents, where they're going to have, no guidance, no moral compass for anybody to teach them anything, and they're going to be put into these groups, these homes where there's how many other children where
You're not really starting off on the right foot.
No.
Yeah, you're not setting anybody up for success, and that's what they're coming here for, right?
Yeah.
So why would you send these children into the system where it's already broken? Like you see it all the time where, a foster child winds up in jail because they had nobody to guide them and teach them the ways of life. And then
It kind of goes either way, though, because sometimes you see foster kids that are super successful.
yeah,
for
but
sure.
but more times
It's a
than
case-by-case
none,
basis with that,
like
of course.
you're seeing these children grow up in these facilities, for lack of a better term, but and they don't get anywhere.
And I get like asylum and stuff, like if you're actually fleeing like persecution and like scary stuff, but generally, at least from what my understanding is they're not. And not only that, but they're like, I know people that have dealt with actual persecution, and they still went through the necessary steps to become a citizen and then come into the country.
It's people are, I mean, this might just be like my bias towards this, but people are always like, oh yeah, the citizenship thing's so hard. It's like, yeah, because we have one of the largest welfare states in the world.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be easy to just get in and get free stuff forever. I mean, that's not right.
I want to touch on what you said, Blackbeard, because that's actually a really great point. But I want to add something else to that. So we also know like of convicts that'll get out of jail, but they don't have anywhere to go, so they'll commit another crime just to go back to jail.
Yep.
There are cases such as that. So let's look at this from the immigration standpoint, where we have these kids that they go through whatever system might be in place. I really have no idea about it. I don't know whether it's good, bad, mediocre, but let's use an example of some kids that, they go through the system and they're kind of like released out onto their own, and, they really don't know what to do. So they turn to these lower income neighborhoods that have like a drug trade. They get involved with that, get in trouble. So there's that. But why are we not so hard on immigration such as that, where we're being so hard on firearms, that like assault weapons that aren't causing as many problems?
Because both of those things are for the same goal. They love bringing these immigrant people in to support their ideas, because the immigrants will come in, these poor people that do not have anything else, and they'll buy into the welfare system, and they'll vote for that party forever, because they keep voting for that party. It keeps giving them free stuff. And on the same side, what I've already said, they want to take away the firearms because it's the only way for us to be able to defend ourselves against the tyrannical government.
And there's always a cost. So you're coming into this place and they're giving you free stuff. The cost is your freedom.
Yeah.
And something that I listened to, like I was listening to Lucas from TRX Arms podcast, or not pod. Yeah, it was his podcast. He was talking about the difference between a civilian and a citizen.
Yep.
That being simply, citizens have firearms and have the ability to have firearms. Civilians do not. They are simply civilians who are subject to whatever the rules and laws that the people above them decide is the law of the land.
Straight NPC,
They're just NPCing through life.
Which is really dangerous. But yeah. It makes you wonder, the whole situation in retrospect is just, it's not getting any better. I mean, and that should really be your wake up call.
Yeah.
Wake up!
Boom! Shameless transition. Yeah, that's your wake up call again, seeing how bad things are, and you should definitely make sure that you're prepared. So that gets into the topic of today's episode.
That's right.
We're going to be talking about basic gear. We're going to go over some different types of rifles, different types of pistols, some things you should know about those, our recommendations on those. Some
simple methods for training with those.
Exactly, yes.
Firearms, because what use is a firearm if you don't know how to use it.
Yeah, and then, just some things about that. And we'll go from there on it, and then we'll be expanding on this in later episodes.
Of course, and also, just as a friendly reminder, with this episode, we also will be having a YouTube video for it, so it is extremely, extremely important to check that out, because that'll really, really go into detail. For those of you that don't know a whole lot about firearms and firearm safety,
the visual is just
yeah, exactly. The pure visual of the YouTube video that we wanted is just to help you guys really, really understand what we're talking about.
Yeah, a lot of these next episodes are going to be having video supplements, just again for the same reason. So keep that in mind. So kicking it off with rifles. Pretty much that's what everybody starts with. Rifles, more like a shotgun or something like that, is what everybody kind of starts off with. It's the lowest barrier to entry.
Yeah. So in terms of being prepared, you want, or at least in the 20th century, or whatever century, 21st century, what century are we in?
21st, yeah.
All right, that one. All right, so 21st century, you want to have a rifle that is modern, that is able to compete, I guess, with other things on the market. So basically, what I'm saying is you want something that's semi-automatic.
Yeah, because like a bolt action, I mean, that and this is a FUD mentality thing. It's like, oh yeah, my bolt action 30-06 I use for deer is good enough to defend myself. It's like, not really when it comes down to actually, like, when that moment comes down to it. I mean, like, sure you can hit. I mean, sure, if you need to defend yourself, it could hit something
like once, but then you have to reload every bullet.
Yeah, versus where you have a reliable, reciprocative fire type weapon, which like you said, like an AR platform. AK platform, that type of stuff is pretty crucial nowadays.
Yeah. So, yeah, like nowadays, the biggest things that you really want to start looking for are AR-15 platform rifles. You can get them from basically any manufacturer. They make them in all price ranges from anywhere close to, like $500 all the way up to $3,000.
You can go down to $350. Honestly, like
Yeah, I mean,
I wouldn't advise that, but
I would definitely not advise
They've
against
been
something like
there.
that. Advise against anything like polymer lowers or anything like that, because the whole point of it is to be reliable. You don't want this thing that snaps in half on you.
Yeah, you
know?
want the you.
Think of it this way: when you're spending money on something such as a firearm, you want something that you can trust your life with.
Exactly.
So there are plenty of firearm manufacturers. We'll use one example: High Point. If you are not aware of what High Point is, they make very, very, very affordable handguns that are like $100, and
like
they are
pot metal.
very they really
this
are. They're
zinc.
pot metal. They are very cheap. They jam frequently. And let's put this into perspective: you need to defend your life, but your gun jams.
You die.
Then what happened? Exactly.
You died.
Exactly.
You died.
So spending that extra $600 or $700 on something that is
Your lifeline.
exactly.
It's like insurance. I mean,
It is
it
insurance.
literally
Yeah, pretty.
that
much.
is life insurance.
is life.
You
It's
know,
the best
in
kind of
in
life
the nitty-gritty.
insurance. There is no respawn, by the way. When you die, you die.
So yeah. So I mean, we're not talking about pistols yet, but that High Point is just a very.
The High Point makes more than pistols.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I mean, they're known
we
for
had
their
the
pistols.
We had the, on the video. We have the pistol caliber carbine.
Oh yes, that's right.
That is a High
That's
Point
right.
995, and it is toasty.
So, anyways, when it comes to looking at an AR platform, typically you'd probably want to look at brands such as Sig Sauer, Diamondback,
Smith and Wesson,
Smith and Wesson.
PSA.
Yeah,
PSA,
basically want to look.
Ruger. I mean,
I mean,
if you're going for your budget,
that's budget.
That's what
Ruger
I'm
is
talking
like
about.
the lowest you should go.
Yeah, I would say so.
Like Ruger, Smith and Wesson, and then you get in. There was a nice graph that I saw that like put manufacturers into like tiers of, like you got your
I also seen this.
low budget like
Bushmaster,
stuff. This you don't go any
DPMS.
lower than this.
I don't like
It's like
TPM very much.
you don't go any lower than this, and then there's like medium, like this is like probably a good starting point if you've got a little bit of cash. Then there's Gucci and all that.
And then we're going top tier with LaRue Tactical.
Yeah, S Gear. What's it? War Sports. And then what else? Daniel Defense. Yeah.
So I mean, like anything else, like for instance, if you play hockey, there's cheap the wood sticks that are at Dick's and Dunham's with plastic handles and whatever. Do you buy that to defend yourself, or do you buy the nice like
The CCM.
carbon fiber?
Now you're getting into something that I can relate on, since I played hockey literally my entire life. So like Dick's Sporting Goods, they have like wooden sticks for like $50 that flex really easily. So if you're gonna take a shot with that, particularly a slap shot, the first shot or maybe the third shot, it'll flex so hard that it'll probably shatter and it'll splinter. That's what happens with wood sticks when they break. They splinter.
It's a hockey, you know. It's a game.
It's only game. Why you have to be mad?
You have to be.
Yeah,
mad.
same
So-
concept. With
yeah,
that,
exactly.
you can apply it to anything else.
Yeah, like even baseball bats, I'm sure, or
Yeah.
anything.
Baseball in particular, people get picky about it.
But they're tools. All of these things are tools.
Yeah,
And
that's-
you want the best tool that you can afford to get the job done.
Exactly.
Yeah, or at least if you can't afford the best, get one that is pretty damn reliable.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Or save up. Save your pennies. Save your pennies and get the reliable rifle.
Don't cut corners. I mean, that's the thing. Because I mean, like we said, you know, this is defending your life. You don't want to cut corners on it. AKs. I mean, as long
It's
as
hard. Yeah, it's hard to get a nice AK in the U.S. Just because of the import laws. There are good ones that are available. You just kind of have to look around. I personally have a PSA AK-103 that I recommend. I
and
only
I have a Century Arms.
I wouldn't recommend the Century Arms.
It does everything I need to do.
Well, we'll have to put it to the test.
I have a
Let's do it.
Romanian Star 1, and that thing has never given me any problems at all. Like, never a single problem. Never jammed, never misfired, never had problems feeding. So I mean, I'd recommend one of those, and you get those cheap enough. They're about $1,000.
Yeah, you can. I mean, just do your research. Look them up. See what other people are saying about them, and I mean, don't just go off what we're saying. Go off what like the vast majority of people are saying.
I'd recommend, if you're starting off though, I'd recommend an AR, just because there's so much more with it. The ergonomics on an AR are easier than an AK. I'd say they're easier to work on.
Yeah.
I mean, way more accessories, so you can make it do whatever you want without having to completely like
It's the
change
Honda
the AK
Civic
around.
Yeah.
of the rifle world.
Yeah, and then I mean, so that's basically it for AKs. I mean, it's kind of just do your research on that if you want to go that route. And then like other types of guns, other than just AR-15, you get into like higher caliber AR, so like AR-10 platforms. You can get into
Beowulf.
gas, gas or different types of gas operated ones like Galils.
The M416.
Yeah,
if you're like super loaded and you
I
want to
would
spend
love
$3,000 on a
416.
416.
416s are pretty cool.
Scar.
Are they worth the money?
ACR.
pulled a SCAR out. We would be having a blast.
Yeah.
An AUG.
But there's all kinds of different guns, and the biggest thing, which we'll touch on a little later, is get stuff that works with the network of people that you have come up with.
Yeah.
But from there, we can move on to pistols.
I think we're pretty much all biased towards SIG.
Yeah, I'm pretty biased towards SIG. I think
we all are.
I think we all are.
Yeah, I'm pretty biased
There's
towards
other
SIG.
people in our group that are more biased towards Glock, but regardless, if you are going to buy a pistol, I would highly recommend, personally, either a Glock or a SIG because of their track record and
Capacity and stuff, yeah.
To touch on that, I mean, law enforcement uses Glocks. That speaks for itself.
the military decided to use the SIG P320 as their main weapon. Does that mean that it is good? Not necessarily, but it did pass all of the trials that it was put into.
And then in practice,
Because
it's awesome.
the big three that were in line for that contract was SIG, Glock, and Smith & Wesson.
Yeah.
And to reference a video that I saw on, let's say, the SIG M17, that it was Grand Thumb did a review on it. No, he's not sponsoring this video, although I wish he did. If you watch that video,
He gets sponsored. He
I
doesn't
know,
sponsor people.
I know, but like he didn't tell us to talk about this at all. So
No
just
sponsor.
clearing the air on that one. But in his video, he said he ran 10,000 rounds through that handgun, and not a single jam without cleaning it. He did not clean it at all.
Was that on an M17?
M17.
That doesn't actually really. Does that surprise you?
No.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. Because
Sig Sauer M17.
That's something.
holds up.
Yeah, that's something that you can rely on to protect your life.
it's all as long as you run the right ammo through it. Don't
Right.
run
Don't
you know,
run.
cheap tchotchke ammo through it. Otherwise, you'll be having a good day. You know.
I guess not.
And that's with anything. It's not like these kinds of guns will handle a lot, like a bigger margin of different kinds of ammo. Like there's some super expensive guns that are supposedly super reliable, but if you start using like budget ammo or regular ammo, they just jam. So this ammo would work fine in any other gun.
Like I'll use my Kimber 1911 for example. That thing is ultra picky with ammo.
Yeah.
It just like if you have to run really specific types of ammo through, otherwise it doesn't work right. I've heard that from several other people. That
I
have
know.
Is that wait? Hang on. Is that the 1911 that you have? That is.
this. The Tri-10 one.
Yeah. Is it shoot? Not or wait. What caliber is it?
It's 45.
45. Okay.
The only caliber you get a 1911 in.
I would go for one of those 9mm 1911s that hold like
I don't know
25
about
rounds.
that.
And just completely tack it out with like a 1 pound trigger and just have fun with it.
What was that handgun that you brought over that was having trouble with the 9mm? It was Parabellum instead of Luger.
Oh, that was a Taurus PT92, the stainless one, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that was PT92 because that was chambered for 9mm Parabellum, and we had 9mm Luger for it. And I didn't realize that until I double checked because it'll still feed. But the problem was in that particular gun they changed the frame type so it has a really extreme feed ramp, and since the Luger's slightly longer than the Parabellum, it kept jamming into the top of the barrel. That was a mistake on my end.
Right.
But you can still the Parabellum and Luger can still fire out of the same gun, just a matter of feeding on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the main point, like, there's obviously same thing with the rifles, same thing with the pistols. There's obviously tons of different manufacturers you can look at. We personally recommend Glock and SIG. There's also tons of different platforms. Glock and SIG are both striker fire pistols. For the most part, you can get hammer fire, but like the 320 and the Glock 19, they're both striker fire. We can talk about. There's other, and they're both 9mm. There's also
And FN.
FN's a good one as well.
Yeah, really reliable.
Yeah. Again, do your research, look it up.
There's no right answer to this. It's all preference.
There are wrong answers though.
There are wrong.
Okay, there are definitely okay.
If you EDC a yeet cannon, we gotta talk. We gotta talk
Flint
about.
flock.
For those of you that don't know, the yeet cannon was a line of,
point.
it was a high point that they made. They actually literally asked their fan base. I think it was on Twitter or something. It's like, what should we call this new handgun? And someone said the yeet cannon. They got so many likes.
Yeah,
they actually called it that. They printed yeet cannon on the side of it.
They tried to back out of it a bunch of times.
Really?
Yeah, they didn't want to call it the E-cannon, so they ended up calling it the YC something.
We recommend carrying the EDC, definitely a flint Glock.
Yes.
That's the
Flint
ultimate.
Glock.
The
Yeah.
ultimate.
Yes.
Coming
The
soon.
black
It's fully
powder
semi-automatic.
Fully semi-automatic, yeah.
Black powder rifle.
Yeah.
Pistol.
Pistol.
Yeah, but again, striker fire, you got super reliability there. Some people do prefer the hammer types, like the SIG. What's it? A P? What's it?
226.
226. Yeah. So you got some super reliability there. Or people that prefer hammers. There's one for that.
Some people prefer 45, so the 1911, the FN.
Yeah.
What's the
FNX 45.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably about the, I'd say that's the best 45 handgun to
caliber,
carry. Yeah.
And the reason why primarily people don't carry 45 or try to conceal carry 45 is ammo capacity.
Yep. Definitely.
The 45 is a much fatter, stockier round than the 9mm is.
God's
So-
caliber.
It's 11 millimeter roughly.
I guess.
Not me. I carry the 45 and 15 rounds of diplomacy.
And that, yeah, what
15.
handgun is that?
That's the
This the
FNX.
FNX 45 tactical.
Okay. Yeah,
That's what I honestly, if I had one, I would carry that over anything, just because that's a beautiful gun.
It is.
Not to mention the stopping power of 45 over 9mm. I mean, it just is.
That's
And this
just
is
the
that's
only-
another thing you gotta talk about with yourself is size of round versus capacity. So this is going to be something that you're going to have to compromise with, I guess, but unless you go with the FNX.
I'll stop you there on EDC because we do have an episode for that. Stay tuned. We'll get into all the details about that. But as far as recommended pistols, Glock SIG's usually it for us.
The only thing we don't recommend is do not. I don't care if you're a female. I don't care if this is your first gun, whatever. Don't give them revolvers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Personally, revolvers they're old, they're outdated. There's a reason the military is not using revolvers. They carry 6 rounds of at most for whatever you're carrying.
It's 6 or 5
It's
in your common calibers.
some people like them, but me personally, I will say that don't carry a revolver.
I carry a revolver when I have my suit on.
That's different.
Yeah. Because you can't holster. I can't wear a holster.
Yes, you can.
Not easily, no.
There is one very good pro to a revolver, and that is accuracy. If you get into your larger frame revolvers, they will outshoot a semi-auto.
Yeah, but the majority, including us, are you going to outshoot your gun? Most guns like the SIG, or for instance, I know for a fact, my AK has a 3 MOA. Can I outshoot the 3 MOA? Maybe stationary.
Explain what a 3 MOA is.
Minute
I
of
know
angle.
it is, but
MOA is minute of angle, basically meaning if you fire the weapon sitting at the exact same place, the exact same whatever, while it's vice to the thing, there's still a variation of where the bullet's going to land. It's not going to be perfectly in the hole or on the bullseye every single time. The bullet may drift. It just because again, there's a lot of
variables
things affecting.
Minute of angle, so that's actually a measure of degree. Or so you have degrees. If you take a degree and break it into 60 parts, that's 60 minutes. So 1/60th of a degree is a minute, and then likewise, I don't know if you guys know the seconds of angle. That's each of those 60 parts of the degree can be broken up into 60 more parts called seconds of angle. You've probably heard that term before.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty small value, but if you're shooting at extended distances, it actually does. It does matter.
Yeah, 6 MOA is, I believe, used for more precision shooting. Is that correct?
No.
6 MOA is most of the time what your pistol red dots are.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Pistols are
I
usually
reversed it.
lower.
I reversed it.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
higher MOA is less accurate.
Yeah, no, it's more so the sacrifice is the 6 MOA is for quicker target acquisition. 3
It's a
MOA
bigger
is-
dot. basically.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
a
what mine
bigger
is.
circle
Yeah,
that the bullet
exactly.
can go into.
Right.
If you're within 25 yards, then that's fine.
Because I did my research on this whenever I was looking at pistol sights for my new handgun that I'm building. It's the 6 MOA is primarily used for quicker target acquisition because of the bigger dot. 3 MOA is more so for accuracy.
Yeah, I think
But you don't want, honestly, I wouldn't buy a rifle sight with 3 MOA.
No.
I would look for 1 or 2
I think mine's
Right.
1. Pretty sure
on
mine's
your
1.
rifle.
I think so.
Yeah, most likely.
The pistol, I think mine's either.
I know my dots are 2. Your
What?
pistol's 6.
Is it 6? Okay.
On your pistol is a 6?
Yeah.
I would imagine
I have a
on
3.
the Romeo
You
Zero
have
is
a
6.
nice sight. Yeah, that's a SIG. Like the cheaper SIG one. The
Yeah.
SIG 0, Romeo 0.
Yeah, it's just what it was.
No, but
Yeah.
like on my FN.
You have a Vortex.
Yeah, it's a Vortex.
I think it's a 3 on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all kinds of stuff. Again, moral story: do your research, see what fits best for you. Go to a gun shop and hold the pistols, because like you may love what a Glock looks like. And this is for me, like, I like the style of it. I think it looks good. There's so many accessories out the wazoo for it: holsters, different trigger groups, different slide options, barrel options, magazine options, etc. Out the wazoo. The moment I hold it in my hand, doesn't fit my hand right. It just doesn't fit with like where the beaver tail is, essentially, in like a 1911. Doesn't fit my hand right. So you have to actually experiment with them, hold them, see what you like, and whatever's best for you is. I mean, as long as it's not a piece of junk and it's reliable, that's pretty much the best option.
Another thing to mention, there are some firearms stores that will actually let you go into a firing range and shoot some of their firearms that they have on display. They will probably have a limited selection because they obviously have them there for people to try out and use for themselves. You can pay like $20 to $30 to take a box of ammo in and just practice shooting it, see how it feels, see if you like it. So if you do have any kind of firearm store or dealer near you that does something like that, see what handguns they have if you're looking to get one for yourself. See what handguns they have that you can test out in a range before you purchase it.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I know we have a couple around here, but I know, of course, it varies per area. They're all over the place, so I imagine that most people have one within an hour where they live, if they're in the U.S.
Yeah.
Or utilize your friends, your family.
That's also, if you don't have the
Good point
first
as well.
option, or I mean, again, that's a cheaper option. That's a really good point.
The most important thing, I think, in terms of selecting a pistol or a rifle, though, is talk about it with your network, the people that you have like kind of built together or whatever, because it makes sense for you to all have different style weapons that take different style magazines that take different style ammo, or would it make more sense if you were all using similar stuff that could be interchanged between the 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 of you that basically allow you to, like, one runs dry, here's some more ammo, something broke, I have extra parts for it.
Yeah, I think with rifles it's a lot easier to do because you can get StanAg platform, which is like, AR to war. A lot of stuff takes StanAg, so I think it's a lot easier. Pistols, there's a ton of variation with pistols, and I'd say at bare minimum, try to make your ammunition type match across your network. Again, like 223 for rifles or 5.56. Pistols, I know it's, again, like I know even our normal group all the pistol stuff doesn't match, but they're all 9mm. So like if something happens, you need ammo, you can take it out of one of the magazines for your magazine. There's still ammo, or like one person, they just have to carry around extra ammo. So I say at bare minimum, make the ammunition
Similar
type
caliber,
count.
yeah.
I do want to jump back to the rifles real quick. That's definitely something to mention. There are rifles that can shoot 223. There are rifles that can shoot primarily the AR platform. There are rifles that can shoot 5.56. But if you buy a rifle that can only shoot 223, it cannot shoot 5.56.
Yeah, it's an important distinction. Like it will fit in the chamber, and if you pull the trigger, it will go off. But 5.56 is a higher pressure, and you could damage the firearm, or it could blow up on you.
Yeah, it can blow up
But
right in your face.
that all goes into just do your own research.
Yep.
Or if you want, like, to get us offline or whatever, ask us. Like, we're relatively knowledgeable in this stuff, and we can help you out specifically if you need help.
And yeah, if you join our Discord, we can talk to you about that sort of stuff. There's your shameless plug.
Yeah, you gotta have at least one an episode, right? Yeah, we study this stuff like I would honestly say like religiously. And we've been dealing with this again for years, so we're pretty well versed in this, or at least we could talk with you, get you a couple ideas, and then you could go from there and do the proper research on the extent of that. The next topic I want to get into though is training. I think that's probably the most important thing. Is like you can get a gun and do whatever with your gun, but it's useless if you don't know how to use it.
Exactly. So, with training, with anything, I mean, if you're buying a rifle that has iron sights, you don't really need to do a whole lot of zeroing with it.
Yes,
but
you do. What?
Okay, all right.
Are you on magic
pistols,
dust?
no. With pistols, not so much.
Not pistols, no, but
But
you have to
with-
zero rifles with iron sights.
Okay, yeah, you do.
And I
I
mean,
mean, out
you
of the-
technically have to zero pistols with iron sights too.
Am I on the magic dust?
You're on the magic dust, my friend.
If you have fixed iron sights on a pistol, that's like next to when you.
I mean, it's hard to do, but they're still zeroed. Like the factory, they zero them.
Yeah.
To a certain degree, obviously, like we talked about with the
The
minimum
MOA.
angle.
You're-
Yeah.
Even then, like if you have those fixed sights, I mean, there's enough variation that you're gonna probably be more of a factor than the pistol itself.
Yeah.
Like you said, I mean, for the factory, they're gonna be close enough to zeroed. But
I wouldn't say not all the time.
if
Some
you
of
most
point,
of the
if you
time.
point in a direction and shoot, you're probably gonna hit the target. That's what I mean by close enough. Like if you
Well,
just
I mean,
slap
What
it
do you,
on
what do you
paper-
For a
think they did?
pistol
What do you
short.
think they did in like the Revolutionary War with their muskets?
They just
they
pointed and hoped.
It's a hope and poke.
Yeah, but well, I mean every time I've ever bought like iron sights for a rifle and throw 'em, I mean it's close enough that you could, like hit a target, and then
I mean, hit a
Alright,
target.
alright.
How big is the
well,
target?
no, I mean that's the first step is you shoot that and then
Well, yeah, and
you
then-
see how far off it is and you bring that back to zero. That's what I was getting at.
So what is zeroing? Zeroing is the act of bringing, whenever you pull the trigger and fire a bullet, does it go where your sights are? And at what range does it go to where your sights are?
Well, that's in the name. So say you set the sight, you want to set the sight in at 100 yards. Zeroing means you bring the distance from where the bullet hits to where your sights is to zero.
Yeah.
That's the name.
So, and there are a bunch of different ways to zero. The military usually does a 25-meter zero.
That's for their AR platforms, right?
Yeah,
Or-
for ARs. It's, I mean, 25 meter is a decent area, and that's specifically good for 5.56 because of the ballistics and stuff, and the ranges, because in the military you have to fire anywhere from 50 meters to 300 meters.
And you're still going to hit a person-sized target
yeah,
300
with,
meters with
a
a proper
25
zero.
25 meter zero.
I think what we did ours at 37, I think.
36. That's something that I saw from Vigilance Elite. He's a
Sean Ryan.
Yeah, Sean Ryan, Navy SEAL dude. He talks about the 36-meter zero, and like he shows a 25-meter zero variation of rounds, like firing at something's close up 50 to 300, and then he shows the 36-meter zero that the variation is
The
within
grouping
5
the
inches.
grouping is much tighter.
Yeah, it's within 5 inches in that area, and the maximum effective range of like a 5.56, I would say, is 600. I wouldn't
yeah.
really be shooting 600 with that.
No,
anyways.
but effectively
Yeah.
you
You
will be
can
able to
shoot,
do what
yeah.
you can do.
so that means your bread and butter ranges are basically up to and maybe touching 400. That's where you can be reliable. So you want to basically be able to shoot 300 and hopefully 400. But 300, I think, is the number that you want to worry about.
Yeah, anything more than that, you should probably be starting to look into designated types of
Yeah.
like rifles for like going back to a bolt action system for that type of range. There's just inaccuracies that come in with the semi-automatic nature of a firearm, as well as like you said, the ballistics of say 5.56.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just a lot of things that go against shooting at those extended ranges. I mean, it can be done because you can hit a shot like that, but it's not easy. It's not.
This
I wouldn't
comes
say it's
down
too
to-
reliable.
Yeah, that comes down to training at that point and familiarity with
Yeah.
that rifle.
And just physics on top of
Yeah,
that.
and just getting for like zeroing is a great way to get familiar with your rifle. It's the first one you've ever touched or whatever. Just getting a general lay of understanding ballistics and how all that works.
Yeah, well, you can, like you said, you can deal with the actual like ranges. Like, what's the difference between 25 yards and 100 yards? You
Yeah.
can see that the bullet variation is there. Of course, sight alignment while you're zeroing, you got to figure out where the sight picture sits in. So that's a good way to get familiar with that. And there's the saying, irons before optics. You got to know how to use an iron sight before you start getting into optics.
Yeah.
That's just the way
Yes,
it is.
be proficient with your iron sights before you move into your optics, because if you are not proficient with your iron sights, then if something happens to your optic, you are
You're putting
dead in the
yourself
water.
it,
You're
yeah.
up shit creek.
Yeah, you don't know what you're doing.
Well, optics are a highly precise piece of engineering. I mean, there's no way otherwise to look at that.
They're
and it's
definitely great tools.
but they could be more easily damaged than a piece of metal.
There are some AR platforms that do not come with iron sights when you purchase them. For example, I purchased the 6-hour M400 Tread. That did not come with a set of iron sights, so I immediately purchased an optic for mine.
Black Rains don't come with irons either.
Right. So I actually purchased flip-up iron sights for myself and zeroed those. So in case my optic fails, literally the name implies itself. I can just push on my flip-up iron sights, and they'll flip up, and I can use those.
That's why I say the first upgrade that you ever get for a rifle or anything, pistol, rifle, whatever, is a light.
Mm-hmm.
Because that increases your capability. So before you can't see at night, there's a whole, like, how long is night? Like 9, 10,
Very,
8
of
hours.
course, very
8
strong.
hours.
It varies upon the season.
Whatever,
regardless.
However long night is, there is this much
Third of the
period
day,
time
yeah.
that you are basically unable to utilize your weapon efficiently and effectively.
And for example, in Alaska, on December 21st, it is 24 hours of dark.
So
if you live in
definitely
Alaska,
you might as well just walk around with night vision.
We'll get into that in a future episode.
Yeah, so we'll have
the point.
We'll have an entire episode specifically dedicated to optics and night vision. We'll
Right.
talk about night vision. And then we'll be talking too about different, like, we'll be talking in a future episode about loadouts. We'll talk about, like, lights and stuff like that as well. I think that's appropriate for that because there's a lot more you can go into because there's more than just lights.
But once you have your new AR that you purchased zeroed, you need to shoot. You're obviously zeroing it on something, so you're shooting at something. So you're probably shooting at some sort of stationary target.
Learn the mechanics of the rifle before you go shooting.
Right.
Learn how it works, what each function of each piece of that rifle does, and go watch a YouTube video on how to safely operate the rifle.
Like the one we just made?
Like the one we just made.
Very, very, very basic understanding of how a firearm works.
And you can have, like...
We have Valiant reviews coming up soon.
Cool.
Future segment question mark. Let us know in our Discord. Anyways.
But yeah, like if you just bought a weapon, you're new to it or whatever, you need some, like, I'm sure there's someone in your life that knows how to use a weapon. Like, just recently I helped teach a friend's girlfriend how to shoot, and before I even put any live ammo in the magazine, I talked her through the steps of, like, everything of how the weapon fires, like sliding, the magazine, the trigger, what you're gonna do, how to hold it, all of that before I even put a magazine in. And then we went into shooting. And the biggest thing is with shooting and just handling the firearm, understanding whenever it's loaded and unloaded, all of that you can apply to whenever you're just now starting to practice with stationary targets and stuff like that. Shooting at a stationary target, not really implementing any moving yet, but that's where you want to be moving towards. Shooting from different positions, putting weapons on different kinds of barricades or
braces,
bracing the weapon on different objects,
holding the weapon differently.
Yeah,
because again, in our video we talk about different, like, just for the AR for instance, there's multiple ways to hold it, and you not only will feel or you figure out which way you're more familiar with, but what you shoot better with.
Yeah.
Because it very much makes a difference.
And honestly, a lot of people have already done this work for you. You can find this stuff all over the internet of how to do it. Like, you can look at our stuff, which this is great for new shooters. You can look at some other people's stuff. Like, just do your research. Same thing with, like, we talk about the Constitution and everything, and with news, just do your research.
Yeah, I think that pretty much rolls down to what the whole topic of all this is like, the wake up phrase isn't just like, just be aware of something happening. It's understand how to do your part. Not just in, like, how to understand things are happening, but how to prepare for them, how to research things, how to develop your mind around this type of stuff. And this is just a complement to that. You know, you have to understand how to do your research and how to figure out, like, oh, this firearm's good for me, or oh, this is the best way to do this, or oh, this is a V drill or a snap drill. You know, there's tons of stuff that you can do that just boils down to do your research. Just spend several hours on again, like, Google or YouTube
several
or
hours,
whatever.
15 minutes, whatever it is, whatever time that you have. Like, instead of sitting there drawing squares on your desktop, you use that to something that will better you.
I mean, I think that,
growth.
Yeah, it's all about growth, you know, and it's just like anything else. What you put into it is what you're going to get out of it.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing to wrap up on. Again, when this video goes when this podcast goes live on Anchor, our video will be going live on YouTube. That's the supplement to this. Take a look at that. It'll help explain some of the things that we've reinforced here. Again, graphics, all that, etc. will go with it. And then, again, to wrap up, episode we talked about our current events, why it's important. We talked about different types of firearms. Any last things you guys want to add on that?
No.
We elaborated a lot on a lot of things.
I'm pretty content.
Gonna get warm and fuzzy.
Yeah, see, that's the thing is, like, we really enjoy this type of stuff. So, I mean, we can rant about it because we're extremely passionate about it.
Exactly. So
I think it's putting it lightly.
I think it's a good way to put it. I mean, of course it's putting it lightly, but that's what I would say.
Yeah.
Again, engage with us on our Discord if you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions for what we're doing on these podcasts or on the videos.
Talk to us.
Yeah.
Please talk to us.
Yeah,
we need more friends.
Encourage a discussion for sure between us, between other people that are in it.
Yep. There's already a few people in there.
Yeah, we're getting some
make
activity.
new friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's what it's
It's
about.
not just about us. It's about you.
Yeah, that's
That
We're
is
here
a
for
great way to
you.
put it.
This could be part of your network.
Yeah, there you go. That's definitely it. And then, socials. Check us out on Instagram at We Valiant Few. We have our YouTube channel, which hopefully you guys will check out the complement to this video. Again, all that's posted. That'll be posted in the description of the podcast. It's posted on our website, etc. Website, WeValiantFew.com. Easy to find. And then, again, lastly, we're asking if you like what we're doing, please share this to your friends, family, etc. We really would help, or we'd really appreciate if you to help get the word out about this. But I don't have anything else to add, really. How about you guys?
Stay vigilant.
Stay vigilant. I like that.
I'm good. I don't have anything to say. We talked a lot. We got this down pat.
Yeah. You have anything else?
Yeet.
You haven't been here. I've been doing it at the end of every recording.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Yeet.